Hello, Space Cadets. I'm Natanis Likens, and today we are in Empyrion in creative mode, and this is a RE creative world that we are in. So, if you don't know what RE is, that is Reforged Eden. This is 1.9. I know uh, 2.0 is really close to being released, but until it is, I'm still in 1.9. I know Reforged Galaxy is available for creative. Uh, I haven't decided to mess around with that yet because I'm still very new to Reforged Eden. And today is going to be a little bit of a talky episode. We're not going to get into building or anything. I just wanted to talk a little bit and go over the design for my latest creation. It is a replica, but we will get into that a little bit later. The first thing I want to do is explain a little bit about what I've been doing with my ships. And hopefully I can correct all the confusion that I have created with some of that. So let's go over it a little bit. And first things first, get into this view. Okay, so here are some of the ships that I have made. We're going to go over, and these are the CVs. We're going to go over the first four because they were made in vanilla. Um, I will say that I haven't gone over them in RE enough to like tweak them any, so the first four probably are not going to be compliant within RE. And we're not going to go into detail on them. We're just going to quickly talk about them and talk about the designation that I have given them. And the first one is the UNF Solitude. So UNF, what does UNF stand for? UNF stands for United Federation. And this is essentially my version of the Terran forces, or human forces, if you don't know what Terran is. And that is kind of where I've started. And if you read some of the snippets I've been putting on my ships for the workshop, you will notice that I've kind of gone down a little bit of a dark path with the idea that the Terran race, the human race, has been wiped out by what is known as the Cardraxian. I will admit, if that sounds familiar, it should, because when I was thinking up the name, I kept thinking about Star Trek Cardassians. So that is where that name came from. Not important, let's just go over it. So the UNF Solitude was the very first CV that I made in vanilla. So this ship is compliant in vanilla. And then I decided to do a little bit of an upgrade because we nearly had our ship destroyed at one point. So then I made the version 2, and this one is not on the workshop currently. I didn't really see a need to have both of them on there, so I did not put it there. But that is the second CV that I actually made. And then from there, I don't remember which one actually came first, so we're just going to jump over here to the Democles. The Democles was supposed to be a combat oriented, like Corvette type shit. Um, yeah, it needs work. I need to remake that ship or just scrap it and go on to the next one. But it is available on the workshop, and you will notice that it says version 3. I did not release version 1 or version 2 because I didn't like the shape of them. Uh, it's kind of the early days still for me as far as ship designing. But yeah, that is supposed to be a Corvette. This one is available on the workshop, though it's probably not going to be very useful. It weighs too much. There's way too much combat still, so its maneuverability is very questionable. Probably not a good Corvette. And then we need to move on down here. For the next one, we're going to skip by these three and go over here to the Ark. So the Ark is effectively a space carrier. I designed this for the purpose of having a place where I could actually park the Solitude and have like a mobile base. And it does have a very big hangar. Still kind of rough around the edges, but you can see I was experimenting a lot with different blocks and orientations and trying to figure out how to do certain things, and even where the bridge is on this thing. Um, One thing I do need to say, because I kind of skipped over it, the Solitude is meant as an explorer type ship. This one here has actually been retrofitted for Reforged Eden. That one over there is actually the vanilla version. This one has been retrofitted. That's why, if you notice, this has two less laser cannons on the side. Not important. I have learned a little bit about that, and as far as an explorer ship, I really shouldn't have any weapons on it. So that is something I will work on in the future. But anyway, so the Ark effectively is supposed to be a mobile base and a carrier. I do have quite a few SVs and one HV in there. We're not really going to talk about those because today is all about capital ships, and then we're going to get into the meat of what I wanted to present today and kind of clarify some things with it. Now, over here, we have, oddly enough, my most popular ship at the moment, um, the UNF Odyssey. So the Odyssey was my attempt at correcting the flaws with the Solitude for Reforged Eden. Um, I don't know why this is the most popular one, because in the Discord channel that I'm part of, talking about all the aspects of ship while I'm building ships while I'm learning. This one was the least popular on that Discord because it weighs so much, it's very slow, and people didn't like it. So I'm a little bit surprised that this is the one that I have the most people using on the workshop, which isn't that many. I think there's like a grand total of 8 people that are subscribed right now, but it is the most popular. Like none of the others even come close to having 8 subs. So considering the weight issues with that and how slow it is, I decided to come over here and build the UNF Journey. And the Journey does correct some of the weight issues of the Odyssey. You will notice if I fly up a little bit, this one is much shorter than the Odyssey, which does reduce some of the weight. However, the nacelles are much bigger. Again, with both of these, I was intending them to be upgradable. So you could upgrade some of their parts and put more cores in there. Both of the Actually, all of these are supposed to be at core 2, except for the Arc. I think the Arc was originally core 9. For vanilla, that is actually tier 4 CPU. But as far as RE, we're going to stick with the RE terminology, as I'm still trying to learn the terminologies here. Some people on the Discord channel have been helping me with that, and I do want to thank you and apologize for any confusion that I've accidentally created as I'm still learning the terminology and all. So, yeah, the journey, uh, a little bit better than the Odyssey, but still has some issues such as space. The interior really doesn't have a lot of space for upgrading. It's only the thruster nacelles for forward and backwards that have space for expansion. So, yeah, a little bit disappointing, but that is how that works. And after that, I still was feeling like I need to correct some of the issues. The shape of this guy is a little bit off-putting, and it's a little bit big. Like the nacelles are absolutely gigantic compared to the rest of the ship. So then I came over here and I built the UNF Quest. Now, some of the shape of this guy probably looks familiar. Let me turn on the light for a second. Um, that's because I was basing this kind of off the N1 from The Mandalorian. And again, we do have the nacelles to where they are expandable. You can go all the way up to drive thrusters in the nacelles. As far as the rest of them, yeah, that's something I didn't think about, and they are mostly built, I believe, so you can expand to large thrusters. I don't remember offhand, but I think that was the intent, is that you could expand to large thrusters if you so desired. Still a little bit of work on that, and I am working on a whole new, not really ship, but set of ships. So we need to go over here, and you'll see this guy here and those over there. We'll talk about those in a second. Um, this this is supposed to be a carrier ship based on a base that I found and like modified and everything. We're not really going to talk about that, but this was supposed to be a carrier ship. I didn't really like what I was doing with it. It was starting to look very ugly. I don't like the shape of the bridge or anything. So from there, I went and downloaded a few different ships to take a look at them, try to get some inspiration from them. And I found these two modular ships. So they have little docking areas for smaller ships, and most of these have different kinds of modules. I don't remember who the authors are of this, so I do apologize for that. I didn't think about looking that up before I actually started recording, but I was very interested in doing this modular thing, so I started doing that here. And a lot of people seem to be confused because of the way I've been wording it. This Okay, so this is a module for the Astra Mark II, and this is my module, and as you can see, my module is quite a bit bigger than theirs. Um, yeah, it's mostly because I was trying to, work with shape and everything and come up with a very unique shape and not follow suit with the whole like square box thing, even though, if you actually take a real good look at it, it's still a square box. But this is, initially I was calling it a base, and I don't mean base as in like you set up camp and you have all your stuff. I mean like a blank canvas. And that's something I do need to correct because I was confusing a lot of people with that, and I do apologize for that. This is a blank canvas. This is so I can carve away at it and make whatever module that I need to make with it. And that was the whole intent with this. And up here we have one completed module. This is what I'm calling the command pod. So it's the base start. So this is the first thing that you should make when going after the modular ship design that I am working on. And as you can see, that one had 4 of these upright portions here. Each one of these, and that's why it's so large, each one of these I wanted to have like a set number of them so that you know just at a glance which one it is you're looking at. Because the one thing I noticed with their modules is it's kind of hard to tell which one's which. With the, whoa, with this frigate over here, the SFS um, Matarest, I don't actually know what it is. The pods are slightly different, and even the modules for the Astra are slightly different, but it's still very hard to tell which one's which without seeing the actual name. And that's something I wanted to do differently with my designs, is make it to where at a glance you'll know which one's which based on how many of these upright portions are there. I got a little bit of work left to do. Well, I've got a lot of work to do. The command pod is essentially finished. This one is effectively the very first one that you should make in order to get the rest of the modules and then make the entire ship, which is still a work in progress. I've only done the one pod. I have 3 more planned. I want to do a farm pod, I want to do a production pod, and a mining pod. So that is something I will be working on, and hopefully sometime this week we will get in here in a stream and actually start carving away at this guy, because I spawned another one. This one is intended to be the mining pod. So we'll start carving away at this, removing blocks to lighten it up and put in all the necessary components to actually make it a mining pod. I wasn't intending on going inside of any of these ships, but I want to go in here real quick because this is, like I said, it's a blank canvas. It barely has anything. As you can see, we have a gravity generator, we got our core, we have our core 2, we have a detector, and then we have a couple of generators, a couple of fuel tanks, and one uh, oxygen tank. Again, this is just the base of it, and from here we'll be able to like mold this as we need. But that's what all the blank canvas things have on the inside of it. And as far as the thrusters, we can move them around and remove some as needed. This was just to get the thing up and running. That's something I needed to clarify because the people I were talking with seemed to misunderstand that this is not a finished product. This is just something I can work from. Anyway, let's move on to why we are actually here. And that is because you can kind of see it over there on the left side of the screen. Um, on that Discord channel, there was a special request that I decided to tackle. And that special request was a replica ship from the game Star Citizen. Now, I have no experience with Star Citizen. I don't know anything about this ship. I was just looking at the overall look of it, and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to tackle that, see if I can work on my block shapes and make something really interesting. So this over here is an SV fighter, and as soon as we get up to it, you will see the name of it. This is a Anvil. Okay, so I'm not familiar with the game enough. To my knowledge, it is a Anvil Super Hornet, but the person that requested it kept telling me it's a normal Hornet. So tell me down in the comments on the video what exactly this is, because I'm a little bit confused on that. They were telling me that the Super Hornet has a 2-passenger seat. All the images I could find of this thing, all of them have 2 passengers, so I don't really understand what the difference is there. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the Anvil Hornet or the Anvil Super Hornet from Star Citizen. Now, before we really get into talking about this, I'm going to come over here to OBS and we're going to look at some pictures of the actual ship and go over some of my design choices with this. So first up, we're going to start with the side profile of it. So looking at the side of this is very, very interesting to look at. I really love how this thing looks. And you can see the ball turret up there at the top in the middle of it. Unfortunately, this is just an image, so you're not going to be able to see the mouse where I am pointing at. But up there, there's a dark gray section on top of the ship. That is the turret that is on this like ball rotating piece. Again, because I have no experience with this actual ship or the game, I don't know how that's supposed to work. My thought is that this thing, as the ship is pivoting, that turret just kind of stays focused on its target, is kind of what I'm thinking, but I'm not exactly sure. The brief information I could find about it didn't really go over it too well, and I couldn't find any actual footage of this thing in action. Um, a lot of footage about going over it and if it's worth investing in Star Citizen, but that's beside the point. We're mostly looking at the design of this. So one of the big issues that I had with it, if you look at these tail fins on the back, you can't tell it from here, but this not only goes up a little bit, it actually goes out. So let's look at the above shot of this thing. And you'll notice that this tail actually does go out a little bit. The ball turn in the middle is kind of round there in the center. And the outer rim of the circular section, I don't have the page open anymore. It's a particular type of triangle. I don't remember the name of it because I didn't think to write it down or keep the page open before I started recording. So this was very interesting to me, and I really wanted to tackle it. Um, yeah, very, very cool. And then you'll see that the main thruster on the back there is completely exposed. That's something within Empyrion I wasn't too comfortable doing. I did try to keep it a little bit open and exposed, but you will see that I did cover it up a little bit as a choice design with what I was doing. Obviously, with Empyrion being a completely different game, we do have some limits as to how we can build it and everything, but yeah, I did my best, and the person that requested it absolutely loves it, and a few other people have been very impressed with it. So, yeah, let's go over a little bit more about this by switching over to the bottom view. Okay, so again, from the bottom view, we can see that the thruster on the back there is almost completely exposed. Um, Again, in Empyrion, that's something I'm not too comfortable with, so I did do a little bit of designing there. The other thing is that the ball turret is a little bit exposed on the bottom there, and we still keep that kind of round circular shape there. And the I don't know if those are forward thrusters or intakes. I don't know why you would have an intake on a spaceship, but okay. Um, the one thing I wanted to point out about those, if you look where the wings are on either side and just go towards the ball turret and then out towards the cockpit, you'll see that these shapes here are a little bit of a rectangle and they're on the outside of it. When we go and look at my ship here, my version of the ship here in a minute, you'll see that I actually reversed this, and these triangle shapes are actually on the interior instead of the exterior. The reason I did that is because of some of the block shaping we had to work with. Um, Within Empyrion, trying to place some thin 1/8 blocks that close to the hull of it would kind of mess with the overall design of it a little bit, so I decided to flip these. Yeah, we're just going to go with that. And then as far as this whole tail thing, you can see that this does go out a little bit, like we're starting to get a cone shape on the tail. And if we go to the rear view, okay, again, you can kind of see that this is the tail's a little bit curved and it does have a little bit of a cone shape. Unfortunately, in Empyrion, that's not really possible with how thin these are. Let me reiterate, that's not possible with how thin these are. If I made it much, much thicker, it would be possible. But these are very thin, so it's not going to look right if I use the bigger blocks in order to achieve that shape. And then we'd have problems with the thrust because the weight of this thing is already really, really high. So let's get back into game real quick and go ahead and shut these off. And let's go over and look at some of this. So first thing, like I was talking about with these, hang on one second, let me get this off. Okay. So with these forward intakes or thrusters, you can see that I have the reverse thrusters there, and I do have more of them up here. It was kind of necessary because this thing weighs a lot with the jet thruster on the back. If we go down here, you'll see that, yes, this is on the wrong side. Again, that was kind of a choice thing because, as you can see here, we got kind of a blank area because of this design right here. I probably could reverse that, but then trying to turn off the light real quick. Trying to shape this thing on the outside. See, you got like 1/8 blocks along the edge here. Yeah, we'd still end up with the same kind of thing there unless I did something else there. So yeah, I decided to flip them around. It does look a little bit odd with that gap right there, but I think it's close enough that it kind of works. And then as far as the ball turret, this is where I actually wanted to start because I was already We can't see it from here. I was already experimenting with these kind of shapes over here to achieve like different styles and everything, and that's why I showed the modules last to show that I'd already been working on using blocks in that kind of configuration. So we got kind of a circle going on here. It's not perfect, but I was very limited with the size because I wanted to keep this as compact as possible so that the thrusters will actually allow this thing to maneuver. That's one of the things that somebody said on there is that this thing, if I made it too if I made it as accurate as possible, this thing would be absolutely enormous and it would weigh a lot and would probably fly like a brick. Now, I don't have any combat experience with it yet. I've mostly just been flying it around here in the creatives, testing out to see how well it maneuvers. From my point of view, being that I've not used a fighter against anything yet, it does move fairly well. You will notice there are quite a few exposed thrusters because of the way Empyrion's thrusts work. That was necessary, and there are a lot more thrusters hidden. So, first off, we got one ammunition controller on the top, and a good portion of this ring right here is the extensions, container extensions, to allow this controller to have, whoa, wrong button, to have as much storage space as possible. I did go a little bit overboard with it, but considering we've already got this much missile ammo in here, that should be fairly sufficient to get you through a fight or two, maybe three, I don't know. Again, I don't have that much experience with ship combat in even vanilla Empyrion. So yeah, we do have quite a bit of storage here for weaponry, or ammunition more correctly. And then down here on the sides there is another one. There's one on both sides, and these have a little bit less. That is because like the bullets and even the plasma cells don't weigh as much as the missiles, so they're not going to take up as much storage space. So yeah, we got a little bit less here. You can still have quite a bit of ammo in there. We can go to the other side and look at this one. So yeah, we still got a fairly good amount of ammo in this side as well. So yeah, we're a little bit over. I see that right there. But that was me playing around with how much storage I needed to actually get in there to have a decent amount of ammo. And mostly these plasma, this would be for energy shields. So I don't think it's going to take that many shots to bring down the energy shield. Maybe in PvP, if you're dealing with like all the shield upgrade parts in another person's aircraft or ship, possibly it's not enough. I don't know. I don't do PvP, so yeah, that is that. As far as where the weapons actually go, you can see that we do have two Gatlins on the front. That was something that I really couldn't recreate, and there is a part in here that I was tempted to use to try to recreate that holder, but this part, it's either glitched or such a pain in the butt to use. Let's turn off the shields real quick. That I really didn't feel comfortable with this. Yeah, you can see that that's actually outside of the bounding box. So I don't really know how this thing is supposed to work. I have seen people use it, but it just is such an annoying part to try and put it where you want it that I didn't really see it as something that's necessary. So instead, we just kind of wrapped it with 1/8 plates so that we get something that kind of resembles that holder for these forward weapons. It's not perfect, but again, we're dealing with the building mechanics of Empyrion versus what is in Star Citizen. And then for the outer ones, I did put enough space here that you can have 3 different types of weapons there. As far as putting the Gatling guns there, that's just placeholder. It's just what I was messing with in order to try and get the ammunition storages in somewhat of a comfortable position. Originally, I did have. Let me find them here. I had plasma cannons and the guided missile launchers in these 2 spots. So you do have your choice of weaponry. You can switch it out as needed. And then let's go talk about this wing, because the wing, yeah, there's not a whole lot I can do about the shape of the wing. Okay, first off, without making it really, really thick, I can't achieve that very thin look of that. The other thing is the person that requested this be remade in Empyrion was a little bit annoyed at how low this wing is, or these tail wings are. Unfortunately, that is something I kind of had to decide to do with it, because if I raise this up a little bit, then we'd have this kind of odd section here, which really didn't mesh well with this circular upper portion, and it made shaping it a little annoying. So I decided to lower this whole thing, and plus, from what I could tell the images, this little bit right here is actually above this tail wing. So yeah, we dropped it down a little bit, and this is where it ended up lining up at, and that's just because of the size difference in Empyrion blocks and what is depicted in Star Citizen. There really isn't a way to do that. I can't raise this. I don't even know what to call it. Middle bar up. It's as high as it can go and still connect to the outer sections. So yeah, that was something that, it is what it is on that. And then, as I said, I didn't like having the jet thruster completely exposed, so I did build this kind of like holder section for it. Again, this is just kind of a choice because I didn't want it completely exposed. So it does have at least a little bit of combat still protecting it. Not an enormous amount. It's not fully covered, but I'm trying to like keep the style of the ship presented as much as possible. So it does have a little bit of protection. In fact, the wings up to about here are completely combat still. Everything beyond this point, all the way back here, that is all carbon. So this whole section is very susceptible to damage. While this can take a little bit of a hit should the shields go down. I don't recommend it though. I really don't, and we'll get into why. As far as the actual wing shapes, there is a reason I went with these segmented pieces instead of wrong button. Instead of using these, there is a wing shape in here. If I can recall which one it was, I think it's this one that I was looking at. Maybe not that one, or that one. Okay, there was one of these. Yeah, possibly those. So you can see that we do get that curve that is on that ship. However, if you look, that is way shorter than what is presented for the actual Super Hornet. So I decided against that. Not to mention, this one piece weighs more than 3 of these sections. Yeah, so from considering the fact that we're dealing with a piece that is on one hand too short, and on the second hand very heavy compared to these, I just went with this flat design here. I did go through and look at a whole bunch of different versions of these segments, and picking this one was probably the best fit. I tried to use this like angled portion here. However, it just didn't look right with in comparison to the actual Super Hornet. So we went with this more angled, straight look. And then on this portion, I did decide to keep that kind of swooped look to it. And then I thought about using just this for these little bitty wings. I don't even know what to call this part. It's not on that. It's actually this. What is this thing? Micro thruster wing. Originally, I was thinking of doing just that on this section because I felt like this matches the shape the best. However, as you can see, it is way too small. So we added 2 more sections of wings up here and then put that on the tip. So I think that really nails the look quite nicely. Yeah, it's a matter of opinion. Personally, I think it looks the best. Now, as far as the thrusters and the heart of this thing, we need to talk about the bottom. The bottom of this is completely carbon. In fact, let me grab some blocks. Actually, let's grab some carbon, grab some combat steel to kind of demonstrate. So from about here, so everything on the outside of these 3 blocks here, with the exception of some of this engine compartment here, the entire hull is combat steel. As far as the bottom of this thing, most of it is carbon. So the bottom of this thing is very, very susceptible to damage if your shields go down. So keep that in mind. And the reason I'm bringing that up, we're going to go into God mode here in a second and go inside this. Because this thing is cram-packed. So, as you can see, we have thrusters and fuel tanks and even the oxygen tanks just absolutely crammed in here, along with the container extensions. Everything is just crammed in there. So if this thing takes major damage to the bottom, there is a good chance, just thinking about it, there is a very high chance, a very high probability that if any one of these blows up, the whole thing's going to blow up. So keep that in mind if you're using this in actual combat. There is just so much crammed in here to meet the thrust needs of the ship that I feel like any kind of chain reaction is going to destroy the entire thing. Let me reiterate that. Any kind of damage to the bottom of this thing, or potentially the top, but the bottom is going to be a lot more susceptible because it is mostly carbon. It's going to be a massive chain explosion and the whole ship's just going to be obliterated. So keep that in mind when you're using this in actual combat. I know there's probably a lot of people that are going to be like, ooh, I'm going to add this to my collection. Yeah, as a collector's piece, yeah, this is probably perfect. As an actual combat ship, I don't know. Let me know down in the comments anything that happens to you using this if you're using it for actual combat. Now, to kind of help prevent that, you will see this stripe warning here. That is actually steel blocks. So instead of combat steel, which is most of the exterior, all this caution texture is steel blocks, and it's pretty much filled the entire space. So you could potentially remove some of these to make room for anything you want to add, though I highly recommend you don't do that, because that is there to help prevent any chaining. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, if that's going to work out as it should, Just keep that in mind that all the red, or all the caution color, is steel in order to help with preventing chaining. Um, Now we can go up here. This is where the extensions are, the cores. There is space here for a couple more. We can put uh, a couple more advanced extensions in these two slots here. And as far as weaponry, that should be all you need to upgrade the weapons and the shields. Is just two more extensions. I don't 100% know because originally I forgot the pentaxid tank and then realized that I didn't have a pentaxid tank in there for the shield, so I had to throw a pentaxid tank in there. That's why it's located here instead of somewhere else. A little bit of an oversight on my part. I do apologize for that, so hopefully you are aware of that. As far as RCSs, I do believe I have 4 in here. So we got one right there, and there's another one here, and then nope, there's only 3. We got one more right. Ooh, excuse me. There's another RCS right here. So we got 4 in there. You do have this little compartment here to put your shield upgrades. So probably these 4 blocks is about all you're going to be able to access. Because of the way I did this, these 2 slots here and there would be for any more extensions that you want to put in there. Though I don't think you're going to need them. You should only need 2 more. 2 more. You should only need 2 advanced CPUs in order to put more weapons on this and upgrade the shields with the shield capacitors and shield banks and all that. So yeah, that's the interior of this thing, and I do want to talk about the colors here. So red, anything red you see is combat steel. I did accidentally completely recolor these portions here, but on these we actually used. We can actually do this right now. Anything with this texture pattern white on it is going to be carbon blocks. So anything like this is carbon. And then I made it blue. That's right, I made it blue. That was to distinguish it from the others. Because obviously with the hull being white, it was getting kind of hard to tell the blocks apart. So yeah, anything with this kind of coloration, like you see right there, that is going to be a carbon block. Again, anything with this caution color on it is going to be steel. And then the last one we got to talk about, the RCSs are orange, not important. If I can get a good angle at it, the extensions all should be that tan color, with the exception of the upper one. I actually did not do that with the extensions that are in this section here. So these, if we can actually see any of them, which we can't. Yeah, we can't see any of them. Those are probably still going to be the original, like, gray metallic color. Oh, no, no. It looks like I did. Yeah, strike that. It looks like I did make them tan, as far as the interior of them are concerned. So yeah, that is the Super Hornet, and I did. As far as some like personal touches, you will see that I put texture lighting in right here. I felt like that was a good place to do it. I didn't make this flat. I wanted to add kind of my personal touch to it. As you saw on a lot of my ships, this is something that I pretty much do with everything. Just having this rounded block here with that texture on there to create kind of a power conduit look. And then on the back here, we do have more texture lights along the tail wing. Kind of a personal choice, something I just wanted to put my own little touch on. So yeah, that is everything with the Super Hornet. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoyed looking at it and me talking about it a little bit. Um, Again, with the weapons, because I just realized I didn't talk about the turrets. So there's a turret up top, turret on the bottom. You can change them out to whatever type of turret you want. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will come back. I don't know when, some other time, and we will look more at some of the stuff that I've been working on, and hopefully by that point I will have my modular ship done. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.